dopamine. Its role in mental health is that is one of the more famous reward neurotransmitters. So it regulates this degree of motivation and pleasure and behaviors associated with, finding something that makes you feel good. Dopamine imbalances are associated with mental health disorders, including some big ones like depression, bipolar disorder, as well as schizophrenia. All right, now that's the central effect with regards to canonical mental health outcomes. And let's stay in the brain for just a moment, like we did with serotonin, but move on to metabolic. Dopamine plays a role in regulating energy expenditure and appetite. So when dopamine levels are low, people tend to feel more inclined to overeat, particularly foods that offer a reward. So this is generally going to be sugary foods or sugary and fatty, or starchy and fatty. That is a particularly rewarding combination. Dopamine does affect glucose metabolism, and that when dopamine levels are blocked, like some medications do, we'll talk about this, it can reduce insulin sensitivity and contribute to the development of insulin resistance, even if a person isn't necessarily gaining weight. So it's suggesting that dopamine is favorable with regards to insulin resistance. Also, with regards to brown fat, dopamine directly stimulates thermogenesis, or the activation of brown fat, by increasing this uncoupling. And at the white fat cells, where we store most of our fat, in contrast to serotonin, dopamine activates lipolysis. So it's stimulating the breakdown of fat. All right, now let's get to the third and final of the big three of the neurotransmitters, namely norepinephrine, also known as noradrenaline. You've heard of adrenaline before, also known as epinephrine. This is norepinephrine. It's sort of a very closely related sibling to epinephrine / adrenaline, but it's more specific in the with neurotransmission, or as the signal coming from a nerve to a tissue, to a different cell. All right, the role in mental health. Norepinephrine is a neurotransmitter and a hormone that is involved in the body's sympathetic nervous system, or what's commonly called the fight or flight response. So typically it'll increase alertness and focus and just awareness. But low levels of norepinephrine are associated with depression and fatigue. Of course, high levels would be associated more with anxiety and hyperactivity. Okay, let's get right. It's once again sticking in the brain, but into the metabolic realm. Norepinephrine suppresses appetite when it's acutely elevated. But if it's chronically elevated, like with long-term medication use, it can actually start to shift into the other realm, reducing appetite and so increasing hunger. With regards to energy mobilization and its effect at fat tissue, it's very, very well documented. It stimulates fat breakdown. It activates thermogenesis in brown fat. So it's really accelerating fat metabolism.